My name is Bryony Lieber, and in this conversation, I'm chatting with James Campbell, the Managing Director of Botswana Diamonds plc. So, James, you've come a long way since then. You're now the Managing Director of Botswana Diamonds plc, and your career's taken many transitions along the way. Tell me a little bit about some of those transitions and what you've learned in each of those.
No, thank you, Bernie. I'm running my fourth listed diamond company, and typically what happens in the life of a junior CEO is you either die, get fired, or you merge. And I haven't done the first two. The first one was from a transition from being an exploration geologist to being a mine geologist, and this was one of those things that I didn't think about. I was doing diamond exploration work in the then Transvaal, of course, for De Beers. And my boss came to me and said, look, there's a job going at Finch Mine to do the underground geology and resource extension work there. You will go. And I later found out that I wasn't the first choice. The first choice declined, the second choice declined, and the exploration department had to provide somebody, so I was told to go. So,
and you didn't say no?
Well, you can't, I'm not that kind of person. So I said, yes, sir, I will go. But they knew something a lot more than what I did, because this was probably one of the formative changes in my career itself. I was sent to Finch Mine, and my job was to basically do the resource work of the mine below the current mine, what Petra are currently mining some 20 years later.
Okay.
So as part of it, I was given 3 months to put together a capital application to do this work, which came in about 20 million rand. I remember it now. But I also had to develop brand new technology for underground bulk sampling, which had never been done before in kimberlites. So it was a massive technological learning curve, a financial learning curve, and I was given end-to-end responsibility from a financial perspective, a technical perspective, and a reporting perspective. And I had fantastic support from the then general manager, Robin Mills, who's now running a large American pension fund, and we often chat about those kind of times. He had faith in me. My then boss, Alex van Sale, and Bill McKechnie from De Beers too as well. But it was a tremendous learning opportunity and something that I cherish today. The second thing I'd like to share with you is when I became Nicky Oppenheimer's personal assistant. Nothing could be more different from what I've just described to this area. You are working as a kind of an operational manager in De Beers, and suddenly you are the executive chairman's personal assistant, and first one, should I say. Wow. Nicky had just become the executive chairman of De Beers. And he'd never had a personal assistant before. His father, Harry, had. And so we both looked at each other and said, how is this going to work?
What do we do?
What do we do? So, but it was a fantastic experience, 3-year experience. We got on extremely well. So much so that, I'm very blessed to still be invited to his, larger birthday celebrations and wedding anniversary celebrations and things such as that. But it really helped me to get a good understanding about navigating corporate politics and actually how genuinely to serve as well. Because Nicky is a tremendously humble man, but incredibly intuitive in the industry. And he's not demanding, but your job is to make his life easier.
Yeah.
The third one I'd like to share with you, it's a very interesting one. One of the jobs I had to do was become general manager of information technology. And people ask me, how on earth did a geologist who was personal assistant to Beers get involved in IT? I said, well, it's actually quite simple. The then general manager of IT, Kevin Burford, had been promoted to a regional manager. And the board kind of looked around the table and said, well, who's going to be the next general manager? And because I was a personal assistant, I often sat, there making notes for the chairman. No, Nicky turned around to me and said, well, James knows about computers. Maybe he could do the and
what a great qualification.
Exactly. But then in all seriousness, what the finance director then said, is that, well, yes, James does know computers, but he also understands the business of De Beers very well. And that's really important because we don't want a techie because they could go off the tangent. We want someone who really understands the business to align IT to the business. So I did that job, and it was a tough job, Brian. I've got to say, very different from what I've done before. And the one thing I did learn, and I must give Kevin Burford the credit for this one, the previous general manager, is about the rhythm of running a department and the routine. Because I came from an exploration background where every day is different. Yes, you have routine and rhythms and things like that, but it's quite different from running an operational IT department. So that was something that I really drew out of that, was the rhythm. And the final thing I want to share with you is that when I joined De Beers, I thought I was going to be a lifer with De Beers. It was one of those. I was a general manager, and I was one of 4 people who was potentially going to stand in the shoes of the director of geology. But sadly, that actually wasn't to be. And I took a voluntary redundancy. But literally, as I did, I walked straight into African Diamonds PLC and became a junior. And what I say to many people is that I learned, got my technical foundation from De Beers, terrific technical foundation. But what I've learned in the corporate space, I must ascribe a lot to my current chairman, and he's been chairman of 3 companies. I've been the managing director of Dr. John Teeling, who's a serial entrepreneur. And he taught me so much about the corporate space, about raising money. And essentially, when you're a junior company CEO, you're chief cook and bottle washer.
Yeah.
If you don't do it, nothing happens. You don't have an HR department, IT department, finance department. You do it, or you get it arranged. And John was absolutely super in kind of shepherding me in those early days, as I may have been a bit lost. And so much so that, as I said, almost 20 years later, I'm now running my 3rd company under him. And we're still going strong together, which is wonderful.
Oh, well, congratulations. I mean, James, that is such a journey. And the things that I take out of that is the value you've had in working in kind of every aspect of the business, essentially. And I've heard you at a number of different workshops and seminars for young professionals, talking about the value of working in a junior mine and the need for professionals to understand how businesses run and to have kind of touch points across the full business, not to limit themselves to just being their kind of geology profession, but actively understanding the bigger business. And that's always really struck me as very valuable advice.